Yeah, I'm definitely an evangelist. A pastor of the church I was going to called me an evangelist. It was the first time somebody actually called me an evangelist, and I realized, yeah, he's right. I am an evangelist. A friend asked me like, oh, so are you a Christian? And I was like, yeah, I'm a Christian. He was like, so you believe in Jesus? And I was like, yeah, I believe in Jesus. And so it was kind of like, nominally, I considered myself a Christian. I guess I had a respect for Jesus and for God, the Bible. And that came probably from, conversation with my aunt, going to Awana, going to churches, just having like Christian, like children's stories like in my house growing up. But it wasn't until I kind of hit like a point of like brokenness. I came to God like in a time of like a lot of depression, anxiety. My mom had committed suicide like a year before, and it was because of the weight of my sin and just the emotional brokenness that I had that caused me to cry out to God, and it caused me to and that was when my eyes were open to realizing, like, wait a second, like, you say you're a Christian, but there should be some evidence in your life. And for me, it became obvious that no, there's no evidence in your life. Like I had stolen something recently, and I knew certain things like smoking weed and whatnot were wrong. And so there was a moment where I realized I want to go in God's direction. And for me, it was like a process of almost like a desperation to hang on to my sanity. It wasn't maybe a response to the gospel at that time, but seeking God at that point, I believe it was like a process of being discipled, like afterwards, that my eyes were open to what the message of the gospel really is, and how God saves us, and where to place my faith, right? In Jesus, and not in the good that I can do, but in trusting He's done the work, He's pleased God fully, and He died on the cross for my sins, and God raised Him from the dead. And so that's kind of how that was my journey to becoming a Christian. And it was a slow process of discipleship and growing slowly in my walk with God. I love gospel tracts. I mean, I like the Ray Comfort rule, like of never leaving the house without a tract. If I'm ordering pizza somewhere, I can give the person at the cashier just a business card size tract. I love that, just knowing that little seed, you never know what God does with it, right? I use them to hand out and plant those seeds that way, but also as an icebreaker. For me, that's the easiest way to start a conversation. There's so many different ways people can evangelize. For me, my favorite, where I feel the most comfortable, is walk-up evangelism, which is a little bit different. But I just love the fact that I can start a conversation with a total stranger, and within minutes be getting right at the heart of the matter of the gospel, and them actually leaving with a little more understanding of the gospel and something to think about. I think a lot of Christians feel that the world is very hostile, and that people that you meet on the street are absolutely against anything to do with God and Christianity. And in my experience, that's not true. Of course, there are people who become hostile to the message and don't want to hear it. But a lot of people are open to hearing, even if they're of a different religion, even if they're atheists. A lot of people, especially Canadians, are nice and friendly and respectful of different ideas. And even if somebody is hostile, most of the time they will at least have a conversation, and they will want to express, if you're willing to listen to them and to hear their ideas and thoughts, a lot of times people want to share with you as well. And so one of the things we want to show people is just how eager people are to talk about spiritual things, especially young people. Yeah, it's not as hostile as maybe we think. If we watch the news, we think everybody's like raising their fist and burning down churches. But the reality is a lot different. People want to talk about these philosophical ideas and spiritual things. And a verse that I think is really encouraging and motivating is when Jesus says in Matthew 9:37, it says, "Then he said to his disciples, 'The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into the harvest.'" And I just think, in our context here in Southern Ontario, where we have the whole world coming to our doorstep, I think we have such an opportunity to share the gospel. We have freedom here to do it. We have the language that we can speak in English, and we have the knowledge, right? And we have all types of people coming from all parts of the world, and many who have never heard the gospel. And so even Jesus said, the harvest is plentiful. There's no problem there's no lack of people who need to hear the message, but the laborers are few. And so I think it's a great opportunity for Christians, and I hope that we see a change in our church cultures to see many more Christians engaging in whatever way it looks natural for their lives in evangelism.